Hey, good afternoon. My name is Steve Mall, and this is going to be my first video for YouTube. So bear with me as I learn. Apologize that you're here for the first one ever, and that you're probably going to have to deal with me being a complete rookie here. What I wanted to do is I love wargaming. I own a game store called Little Big Wars, and love to promote gaming. So I wanted to do some videos on some of the games I like to play. Maybe do them more as a um, tutorial slash playthrough. Basically, you guys could watch as I play them, and and I could go through the rules and explain them. So one thing I'll say is definitely not going to be a best practices for strategy. This first one that I'm looking at doing is a World at War, the North Africa scenario. One, because for the first video it'll be nice and small, and I can cut my teeth on that. And second of all, I've only actually played a World at War. I've played North Africa, part of the Barbarossa, and one European campaign game with all the rules. But that was, my gosh, 15, 20 years ago. How time flies. So probably about 15 years ago, I played with a guy from Italy. Don't remember his name, but he was a blast to play with, and we had a good time. So uh, basically, I wanted to go through a few things real quick. I want to thank those people that run the World at War .org. It's a great resource for this game. Sorry that I don't have your names. I didn't prepare a script per se. I'm just kind of going on the fly as if I was sitting down and visiting with somebody here. But if you go to worldatwar.org, they got great files there. They got some good replays, things that I'll definitely be reading before I play games. One of the things I'm excited to do eventually is run some of the Pacific scenarios. I don't know much about the Pacific War. I've done a lot with the European War, and those rules seem to jive with me pretty good, but the Pacific War is an anomaly that I don't understand. Again, want to point out that this is not a how-to strategy wise. I like to think of when I've been on some of the groups for World at War and I kind of lurk around. I like to think of and I could be wrong, but a lot of the gamers that play this seems to be their main game, and they're really good at it. And I'm sure that much like a chess master, they have exactly where you should put your stuff and your best opening moves and all that stuff. And like I said, I could be wrong on that, but it just seems to me that the players that play this are really, really good. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the how to play. So basically, I went to worldatwar.org, clicked on the scenario thing here, and that brought up. You can get a PDF version of it. Apologize for the camera angle. I don't. All I'm using is my webcam and the microphone on my headset, and we'll see if this is something that I can put the time into regularly. Eventually, maybe I'll upgrade to better cameras and stuff like that. I am using Vassal. I do own World at War, and as a game store owner, I highly promote that you own the games you play on Vassal. I'm not sure how that works. A lot of these companies provide pretty much everything you need to play, which I appreciate. I do like to go look at games before I buy them. I do that, and I play around with them a little bit. But like most gamers, I'm a game collector too. So even if I play on Vassal, I like to have the physical copy to look at the rule book, things like that. And I play on Vassal because A, I have a cat, and B, I don't necessarily have the room to set up some of the large games that I play. So, and it's for recording on here. I thought Vassal would be nice because everything's right here, and it's looks just like the game, and I don't have to get really good with the webcam and zoom in on stuff. Some of you guys are super talented at that, and one day I hope to be able to do that with some games that aren't on Vassal. Or I'm kind of a snob on the game stuff where if it doesn't look just like the game, I don't really enjoy it as much on Vassal. Uh, Nothing to those of you guys that have created the game modules that don't. I actually created some stuff for Aid to Camp 2. One of them I did was Attack in the Ardennes, Battle of the Bulge, and that doesn't look much like the game at all. At least the board doesn't. So kind of a hypocrite there, I guess. But anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about the North Africa campaign. So it's an introduction scenario, and I'm just going to read it off here to you. I don't necessarily going to zoom in on everything, so you have to read along with me per se. But the introduction looks like it simulates the mobile battle that took place in Libya and Egypt in 41 and 42. It's an introductory scenario. It can be played solo or by two players using the European theater map. The rules used is the ground-air movement, combat, unit construction, redeployment, hex control, supply, oil effects, and fortifications. No naval rules are used. BRPs are not tracked as such, although the BRP cost of offensive operations and BRP value of eliminated units is used to determine the acquisition of victory points. The playing area is restricted to North Africa, the Middle East, and Sicily. Research and production rules are not used. Combat training levels of Germany is 2, Italy is 1, and Britain is 1. The forces listed in the force level table show the appearance of units as the campaign unfolds. There's no naval units used. Scenario begins in the spring of 41 and ends in winter of 42. The initial situation, Germany and Italy at war with Britain. Control. The Axis controls Sicily and Libya west of MM19 and NN19 inclusive. The British control Libya east of LL20, MM20, and N20 inclusive. Egypt and the Middle East. The Axis player sets up first, followed by the British. Britain must place one British 2-5 Army unit, so there's some restrictions there on deployment. We'll do that when we set up. I had already set it up once, but I thought if I'm going to do it as an introductory or teaching, that maybe I should just start from the beginning. So then the order of movement, it'll be Germany and Italy will go first, and then Britain. There's some rules on air bases. We'll get into that. Unit construction, we'll get into that when the time comes. Axis redeployment. Each turn the Axis may redeploy NR up to foreground. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll worry about that during the redeployment phase. Supply, basically, Axis must trace a land supply line free of enemy zone of control from Tripoli to their hex. And then there's some supply rules for the Axis where they're going to roll, and they may have limited supply, which is a rule in the main game. British fortifications. Britain begins a scenario of the fortification in Tobruk. So we'll place that. And then they have the sequence of play up here. It's abbreviated. We'll go through that as we do the turn. So I'm going to leave this up. And I don't know where I put it. So let me see if I can find it quick. I had the, oh, it's right here, North Africa. So here is the victory point chart and units you get. Which I guess I pulled my units myself. I didn't realize they had this on the Vassal. Now I'm using the Vassal mod. My actual favorite thing I used to do was a software program called War Planner. Again, apologize for not having names handy. Going to try to do this without editing, so I don't want to pause and look for stuff because I don't know how to edit yet, but I will work on that. But War Planner, the designer of that wasn't able to continue it. I can't remember the specific reasons, if it was health issues or just time or whatever, things going on in life. So War Planner has been kind of buggy on my computer. There's been some crashes. There is a web version of it which they're working on, which is kind of fascinating. So I'm maybe hoping to go back and use that when it's completed, and maybe it is completed and I'm not aware of it. But for now, I'm going to use Vassal because I'm familiar with Vassal. So anyway, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to zoom in pretty tight because a lot of the the games that I watch on my TV, on YouTube, on using my Xbox. I don't know if it's because I'm older or whatever. I'm 49, but it seems like it's hard for me to tell what's going on because they don't zoom in enough. I get an overall picture, but I like to see the counters and whatnot. So I'm going to zoom in a little tighter. It's going to make for having to move around a little bit. We'll zoom out when we're looking at overall strategy and whatnot, but I like to zoom in so it's a good picture. Also, be nice. It's my first video, but if you got any input, feel free to comment below. If I miss any rules for you guys that play this regularly, please bring it up, and I will work on correcting them. I usually try to get the rules pretty solid, but stuff gets missed once in a while per se. But just be kind. This is my first video, so cut me a little bit of slack. It's for the passion and the love of the hobby. I might do some stuff with this as a channel one day to maybe monetize a little bit, but you're not going to get rich off of YouTube. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at the setup. Oh, my bad. Kind of learning some things here. Scenario card. So basically, if you zoom in on, I'll zoom in on the scenario card. Oh, we're at 100%. So if you can't see that, I apologize. But right here we have the at start. Germany gets 2 Army air factors, a 2-6 armor. Italy starts with 3 Army air factors, a 2-5 armor, 2 1-3 infantries, and 2 2-3 infantries. Britain gets 3 Army air factors, a 2 2-5 armor, and 2 1-3 South African infantry. That's what they start with. All right, so I already have those pieces here for the Germans and Italians, and here for the British. Let's go back real quick and look at that control. So the Axis control Libya west of MM19 and NN19 inclusive. So if we go back over here, that would be these 2 hexes right here. And I'll work on some better software where I can highlight areas. I know some of you guys are really good about that, and I appreciate that. So one of the things I'm going to do is, just for the heck of it, I'm going to put this here and this here, just so we know where that starting area is. And I guess I had one of those because, like I said, I was set up earlier, but I thought I should start from scratch. Order to deployment, so the Axis will set up first, followed by the British. So let's go ahead and set up the Axis first. So I'll kind of tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and if you got comments below, I'm all about strategy and learning, so if you got any thoughts, feel free. There may be more than one way to do this. Like I said, I like to think of the World at War players as kind of chess masters, like they kind of know it all, and like they have all these opening moves that are the best moves, and this is how you counter this move, and I'm not very good at that. I'm kind of a counter puncher as a strategist. I kind of wait for mistakes and have to pounce on them. I'm not a great pre-planner per se. So that's not my strength, so a little grace there would go a long way for me. So anyway, Italy and Germany each start with an extra airfield, so we'll be able to place those at the beginning. And so I'm going to do the setup. So when I set up, I like to put the Italian armor on the front. This gives me some zone of control here for any shenanigans with the British if they try to punch through there and get through there. And I haven't played this scenario for a long time, so I'm really not sure what's all possible. If I remember right, it'll feel like an ebb and flow of the Italians and Germans get a good shove until stuff starts showing up for the British, and then they start coming back from this way. So, and the most you can have in a hex is 2 ground units. So I got a 2-5 armor there, and I'm going to put a 2-3 infantry on top of that. So that gives me a pretty good defensive hex when you defend. So the first number, for those that aren't familiar with it, this number right here, this 2, that is your combat factor. And when you are defending, unless there's a rule I don't know about or can't think of off the top of my head, you get at least to double that number. Now, I think there's some modifiers where that can go down to where you're just defending at face value, but basically in a clear hex, you get a defensive modifier of +1, which means it's times 2. So those 2s becomes 4s. So that gives me a defensive 8 there. The second number is movement. Ground units, infantry units, I should say, do not exert zone of control. Armor units do. So I like to put that there because if I put some good units down here and somehow the British can punch through and cut you off, that's a really good tactic in a world at war with exploiting, and I don't want to get cut off here. So I'm going to go with that. Then I'm going to put, I think I'm going to put the 2-3 and a 1-3 down here, just to kind of defend that. And then I tend to like to build a little bit of a in-depth situation. Now, I only have 2 more ground units because these right here are air units, okay? These stacks right here are all air units. So I have this German armor and I have an Italian infantry. So thinking out loud here, I don't think the beach comes into play much because I don't think there's no naval rules, so they can't really invade the beach. Otherwise, if I was playing the campaign game, I probably wouldn't want to leave this beach right here open because they could invade and come in behind me. So I'm going to kind of use that to my advantage right now. Actually, what I'm going to do just to keep it consistent with probably how I play it is I'm going to put this German armor here, maybe be able to use that to exploit since we get to go first, and then I'm going to put this Italian infantry in it here. So if there's some kind of a punch through, I only have to worry about these guys down here, but I don't think that happens so much with the British in the beginning of this scenario. Then I got 3 Italian air and I got 2 German air, and basically the first number is their strength, the second number is how far they can fly and attack during when they're doing counter air and things like that. There is some staging rules, we'll get into that, where they can stage up to twice that distance and then they can still be used to do offensive missions. But you want to kind of keep them away from the front because if the British get deployed second, and I'm purposely not looking at their deployment rules, even though I kind of remember some of them, I don't want to look at everything strictly, because it kind of tells me more than you should know historically what maybe they were going to do. I don't know. Just for fun, I'm not going to look at it. I know they got to put some stuff in Tobruk and they got some restrictions in Egypt. So they probably aren't going to have a lot here, but we want to keep our air away so they can't just attack our air even though we're going first. It's just it's a best practice. You don't want to put your air too far up to the front within 4 where people can counter air it and then attack you and you can't defensive air support or anything like that. So let's look at the Germans. If I put an airfield here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 I can support there. I can't use it to attack these hexes. So all my ramblings about staying 4 back probably doesn't matter too much because I'm going to be on the offensive and I want to be able to attack there. The Italians be the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, so I can attack anything in here. All right, so kind of looks a little silly now with all my talking about keeping the air back. I want to push my air up because I want to be able to deal with any of their air and also keep their air back maybe a little bit because I'm going to go first. So I'm going to do this. I'm sure some of you veteran players are probably moaning right now going, oh my goodness, what kind of a setup is that? I would crush this dude. But, I just like to have fun. This is more about how to play the game and go through some of the game mechanics versus this is the best strategy for the game. So I've never declared to be that. Let's go look at the British. So they have some restrictions. So the British here, Britain must place. So let's highlight this here. So it's easy to come back to. So Britain must place 1 2-5 armor unit and 1 South African unit infantry and MM-20 and NN-20. So we got to put one of our armor and one of our South Africans right on the front line. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just kind of explaining my thinking on this. So I put the armor here because it gives me zone of control, so it's hard. It slows you down moving past me, and you can't just bully your way through and cut me off. That's my thinking. And I'm going to put this control marker there, and I'll put one there, but I want that on the bottom. And then I got to put a South African unit. That's these dudes with the little orange in the middle here. So there's a South African unit. So those are required setups. I don't have any choice on that. What's the other ones? In any manner. Okay, so that was for that. I can put them anywhere. I have to put 1 South African 1-3 infantry unit into Tobruk. So let's go place that over there. And that is supposed to have a fortress. So let me go find a fortress. So we can come up here. The nice thing of the vassals, it's easy to find stuff. Once you played around with it a little bit. Let's go. It's probably no nations and fortress. Okay, so let's grab that and place that on Tobruk. Tobruk gets a nice fortress. And let's go look at the other restrictions. We have to place 1 British 2-5 armor unit in Alexandria. So that goes right there. So that basically leaves me these air factors to help out. So I know a lot of the things with the World at War players is they're big on the math and figuring everything out and the odds and which odds you automatically can't lose, and not my strong suit. I'm more of a generalization guy. I also, when I'm playing solitaire, I'm a little less detail oriented. I'm more fly by the seat of my pants and see what happens. Maybe that's because when I'm competing against somebody else, I can put the time into just my side and whatever and do more of the math. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to put an airfield here, I think, because in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we can try to help these, right? And I don't know if that's a good plan or not, but I want to, I tend to, as a player, I tend to be more make you fight in the beginning and fight for every mile. I'm not a very good capitulation guy where you fall back and give up ground and let you do your thing. So there is our setup. We don't really need to zoom out, but I like to zoom out a little bit. That's the one thing I don't like about Vassal, where if I'm playing this on a table, I love to look at the whole map, the big picture. That's one of my favorite things. I don't know why that floats my boat, but it does. And this gives us the overall theater of where things are starting at. So anyway, I want to just use this as kind of my first introductory video, so I apologize that it's not super long and there's not a super ton going on here, but we'll just call this the setup and get started. I will go back and read some of the rules again to be a little more polished up when I do this live, not live, but when I record this for you. I'll probably have to look into getting some editing software so that when I have to look things up or whatever, I can take that chunk of time out of there and not make you suffer through that. But anyway, so here's where we're at in North Africa. So when I start the next video, we will start with this abbreviated sequence of play. We'll start the first player turn, and looking forward to it. So thanks for watching my first video. Appreciate it. Again, be kind, but if you got any comments, if you got any thoughts or ideas on software you use, hardware you might use if you do this yourself, I'd love to hear it. And hopefully I'll get better at this as we do it more and more, and it'll be more enjoyable for you to watch. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you soon.